Hello, I'm Fred Grooms, and thanks for stopping in today to check out another installment of Living Your Life Through Strengths. Remember, nobody can give you your strengths, nor can anybody take them away. When I travel around and speak to college and high school students, I often allude to a story about how I had to talk my way into college. Now, I don't tell this story on stage because it's really not necessary for my talk at that particular time, but I'm getting a lot of requests for, hey Fred, tell us that story. So if you've had an opportunity to hear me on stage, give me a few seconds here to give a little background and then I'll finish telling the story. When I was in school, particularly in high school, I didn't really have a lot of drive. My dyslexia wasn't helpful, and I also had a significant problem which I call my GAC factor, my give-a-care factor. It was really, really low. I didn't really care about school. I wasn't concerned about it. I was concerned about working, because when I was working and had a job, that was where I could really allow people to see that I was really good at stuff. And I wasn't having anybody give me standardized tests or judge me based on how well I could remember something from the night before on a test. So working was key for me. But I also realized while working that it was going to be a very narrow life for me unless I got some further education. So I knew I had to do something. I started to raise my GAC factor when I was in school, but unfortunately it was a little late to start doing that when I did. I did do it and it did help. But when I graduated with a 2.01 GPA out of high school, it wasn't going to get me in college, nor were my SAT scores, which were dismal. I just didn't meet the academic requirements to get in. But what I did is I applied to one school, North Georgia College, and that school had a developmental studies program that actually allowed students like me who didn't meet the standards admission. So I sent in my stuff and waited patiently, okay, not so patiently, but waited for my rejection letter. Now I know most everybody's waiting for that big envelope, not the skinny envelope, but I knew once I got that letter of rejection, then I could move from the no to the yes, or at least I hoped so. So I got my letter of rejection and I went in and picked up and called the director of admissions at North Georgia. Strangely enough, he actually answered his phone that day and not his assistant. And I said, hello, I'm Fred Grooms. I've applied for school there and you've turned me down and I want to talk about that. And he was like, you're who? And you want to do what? I said, I'm Fred. You've denied me admission and I want to talk about that. And he shuffled some paper around and asked me my name again, and I could tell maybe he was writing it down, and he hollered out the door to his assistant. I think they were looking for my folder, and I just kept talking the whole time. I said, I want you to give me an opportunity to come up and explain to you why you should admit me to school. And he was like, Mr. Grooms, I don't have your information. Let me look this up. Hold on. I said, give me an opportunity. I said, I can be there in an hour and a half. And I think he was disshuffled. He didn't know what to do. And he just said, okay, well, an hour and 20 minutes, I'm knocking on his door, wanting to come in. By then, he was ready for me. He had my file. He had opened it up and he said, Mr. Grooms, come in, have a seat. I'm glad you drove up here to have a talk with me. He says, but I need to let you know right up front, you don't meet the admission standards for school here. And I said, I know that. That's why I'm here. I've gotten the rejection letter. You're stuck on no and I want to get to yes. And he said, again, you don't meet the standards. And I said, I want to get in the developmental studies program. And he said, you don't meet the standards for that program. And I said, you're stuck on no. How do we get to yes? And he's a little frustrated with me, but he begins to listen to me and allows me to explain what my issues are, how I know how to work, what I've done. I said, look at how I've done from this point forward. I mean, I've even taken AP classes in high school and gotten A's in them. Granted, my English grades aren't great. Neither of my math grades aren't great. And those are the things that, they admit you into school for. So I was looking for an opportunity to get past that no into the yes. I said, at least give me an opportunity. So I think he was a little, shocked by my boldness, and he said, well, let's go upstairs and talk to the director of the developmental studies program. So up the stairs we went. We sat in her office. He gave her my folder and said, let's talk about this young man for a minute. And she went through the folder in about 5 minutes. I sat there and sweated, tried to get my composure together so I could talk to her, because at this point I'm really nervous because I think I'm making headway. And she looks up and she said, you don't meet the standards. I said, okay, again, stuck on the no, let's get to the yes part. And she said, you won't make it in this program. And I said, sure I will, but you've got to give me an opportunity. And I think it was irritating her because she said, you won't make it. And my response is, you want to bet? She sat back in her chair and thought, who does this kid think he is? And I'm thinking, I'm a kid who desperately needs to get into school, and this is my one shot. So I'm going all in here. Well, surprisingly enough, after several seconds of just staring at me after I dared her to let me in, she said, well, if the military department will take him, we'll take him too. Let's give him a shot. But you have to start in the summertime. And I was like, wait, I can't start in the summertime. I need to start in the fall because I need to work in order to make money, in order to go to school, see how this whole thing works. And again, here I am being bold. They've already said yes, and then I put a condition on it. Fortunately, they worked with me, and I attended fall just like everybody else. And I managed to graduate college with a 3.2 GPA. That's pretty good for a guy who had to talk his way in. Now, understand, here's my disclaimer. This is not a way to get into school for any students who's watching this. You need to do well in high school. You need to do well on your tests. You need to study. You need to put forth your effort. You have to have a GAC factor, that give a care factor, that's high enough that's going to allow you to get into school. If you don't, odds are you're not going to be able to do what I did. I mean, the results of talking your way into school are not typical. Most people aren't successful at doing this, so don't try it. Do what you need to do to actually get into school. But if all else fails, I always go by a principle of no is always the answer unless you ask. So take an opportunity to ask, and sometimes the answer becomes yes. Remember, your strengths are uniquely yours. Nobody can give them to you, and nobody can take them away. If you want more from me, go to my website at fredgrooms.com. Check me out. Hope to see you soon. Have a great day.